Richard Hart, yet again, and he's been on this mission for quite some time when it comes to PulseChain, talked about it as well with Hex and things like that. Always saying the phrase, like, I don't work for you. He's commissioned to these products, but he doesn't, do everything or work for any of the investors, obviously. But, recently he tweeted about it, talking about like, people need to go build on PulseChain. And, we a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about, he was referencing like having good SEO for PulseChain and that people can get to work on that. Just different things that he floats in his tweets. But he implored people over the last week to do their own work. It's your chain, blah, blah, blah. No expectations from him. So it's interesting because then not far after that, we see, not that this is building on PulseChain necessarily, but the DEX screener gets updated for PulseChain. So Too Spooky, he of course Tangang fame. I don't know if it was I think it was just him. Updated the DEX screener listing for PulseChain, referred to it as PulpChain throughout the description. I will say, the actual description outside of that, I thought was actually really, really good. Like, they were calling it PulpChain, but I mean, I thought it was really well written and hit on like a bunch of good points about PulseChain, actually. So I did think that was really, really good. It had an orange splash thing over the Pulse logo, which was pretty funny. I thought we're probably going to argue about this, but also other tokens. So yeah, Too Spooky basically paid out of pocket to update this on his own. I think if you look, it's only like $300 or $400 to like update a token. Yeah, on it. I mean, it's kind of like Wikipedia. I mean, I guess that's free, but I mean, yeah, you just pay a fee on there and you can update it however you want to. Some hardcore OGs and stuff like that thought that it was like disgraceful and distasteful and horrible and pearl clutching and all that. Some people thought it was pretty funny. I did think it was kind of funny. I mean, after all, I guess to me, it's like, it's just a DEX screener listing. It wasn't like, anything on the actual chain. But then it all got swapped back. I don't know if you even saw this, but like a day later, I think somebody went in and erased all that stuff, overrode everything, I guess, that Too Spooky did, wrote a pretty porous description. Somebody commented that it looked like it was written by AI, and I thought the exact same thing. Linked a bunch of stuff that hasn't been active for like 2 years, linked some Twitter account that isn't even like, active or anything like that. This whole thing is not as big of a deal as I think some people are making it out to be. But I did at least find what Too Spooky did to be better than, what the status quo is, which is kind of just bland and boring and doesn't have a lot of live things going on. So what did you make of it? I know you weren't really a fan of, calling it PulpChain and stuff like that, but I did think the description he wrote was really, really good. So I don't know. What do you make of this whole thing?
So my thoughts were that I agree with you. The description was fine had he just left PulseChain in there, whatever. Update it to, the real name. It doesn't look good. It's just bad optics, I thought. I'm surprised that it hadn't been done, and I think more people didn't even realize that you could do that. Maybe they did, but he's created enough tokens on there that they've probably found it along the way or whatever, and done it for others. But it's kind of worrisome though that anybody can go in and just change it for $300. I mean, you're going to start a war back and forth on some things that, if you want let's just use, for example, something that is in the middle of a takeover, right? And you're changing the links to websites. Whose do you use? Well, no, you're going to use ours. Well, no, we're going to change it back. So, I mean, this kind of, it seems like it could go on and on forever, I think. There were rumors also, we'll get to something else too, that was kind of along those lines, but several of the tokens on PulseX were pointing to Go Pulse, that exchange rather than the PulseX chain. The reason I had heard for that was because of the IPFS links. If you point to that link and it changes, then it becomes a non-working link. And obviously you don't want a non-working link in your description of the coin. So you're going to send it somewhere that's stable and not going to change. So anyway, I kind of get that, whatever. Yeah, I was not a fan of PulpChain or the little orange splash or anything like that. If you're going to update it right. we're at the point now where we're trying to get outside eyes. We're trying to get adoption. We're trying to get more people on this chain. Um, some people are going to look at it as that's funny, or what does the orange mean? Yeah, maybe they'll look into it and then they'll go that way. Who knows? I wasn't a huge fan. I mean, it was kind of funny, but more seriously, I don't want to say it does more damage, but it just didn't look good. That's all. I mean, I'm not overly concerned. I'm not losing sleep over it, and it just didn't look good. Was my opinion.
I think the bigger point that you just made isn't so much like that this happened or didn't happen or whatever. It's like the deck screener thing. Like that anybody can just do this, go back and forth like that.
Yeah,
I think it shows more deck screeners like they're highly incentivized now that we're in a bull market and stuff like that to collect fees of people doing that. I mean, imagine like all these meme tokens and stuff like that launching and like different people just going in to edit it and paying that fee. They're not going to give a shit. I mean, why not? So to me, it's even more of a non-issue because of that function itself. You know what I mean? Like
yep.
if Deck Screener is just that easy to edit and anybody can, it's like Wikipedia. It's like everybody used to roll their eyes. You'd be back in college or whatever, and you use Wikipedia to help write an article or something like that. Now, of course, we just have AI. But I mean, people would say like, "Oh, what'd you do? Go on Wikipedia and like criticize it and stuff like that." Well, I mean, Deck Screener may just carry the same sentiment kind of with it if that's what you can do. You know what I mean? So to me, it's just Deck Screener. Like it's not that big of a deal. I found it funny. I thought it was in pretty good taste. I thought it was funny. I'm with you. I would have rather just like kept it with PulseChain because he really did write a good description. I like that.
Right, and that's what got it taken down, I think, because it said PulseChain. Somebody could have just replaced those descriptions with PulseChain, and it would have been perfectly fine.
Yeah. What I find funny about this comment that you just put up is like, look at the things that Richard Hart has done over the last couple of years. Like, I am going to say this, and I'm sorry, I completely agree with Too Spooky and anybody that has said this from the Tang Gang. Like, all this stuff about like these guys just need to grow up. Like, what are you doing out here? Like, look at what Richard Hart has done over the last couple of years. Like, and I know like some of it was purposeful, like some of the posing and the Red Bull can and all this stuff. And it's funny, and I didn't mind really Richard Hart doing that stuff either. So, I mean, I don't know if functional crypto is being serious about that, but some of the people that are like, to me, it's just like, I don't know how you can clutch your pearls at this and, be okay for some certain things that Richard Hart's done over the last couple of years. So I'm okay with both. I'm just saying that. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that.
Again, my point was, and Briz just said it too. I'm not losing sleep over it. It's not something I got worked up about. I had an opinion. I didn't think it was the best move that could have been made. But I wasn't up in arms about it or anything like that. So yeah, that's it.
I will say this, and this is something I really feel good about. Like this battle, whatever you want to call it, between like Tang Gang guys, Atropa guys, Hex OGs that want nothing to do with any of this and think it all looks bad for the chain and blah blah blah. I think that this is fantastic. Like all of this stuff, like Corey Costa the other day, and I'm not calling him out. I'm just stating it because he tweeted it. That's all. But he talked about like, we need unity and all these things. I don't think that really matters. I mean, like, yeah, I understand you don't want to see people fighting and stuff like that. And you want to have like somewhat of a unified message, but like, look, like it is an absolute dumpster fire out there, like for attention, like on Twitter and YouTube and stuff like that. We have the most, PulseChain has the most dedicated like streamers, tweeters, content creators, like more than any other chain out there. And I think like the more vibrant, whatever you want to call it, trailer park trash-ish, whatever you want to say, the community is, and there's more stuff like that out there, and people see all these things going on and all this attention around it. The thing that you don't want is no one talking about you.
Right.
That's what happens to like, who cares about like Polygon Matic and Polkadot and stuff like that? I have no idea about anything going on with those chains whatsoever. Now, and Solana at least like had a season and people were building on it because it was kind of just like the de facto, kind of contrarian play from last cycle. But I mean, like, there's not really a lot out there that's getting a lot of attention, like more than what PulseChain's getting, and people are going to see that stuff.
Right. And that leads me back to, what Richard Hart was doing and how many people were saying that he was a scammer. but it was
Right.
still getting the word out there, right?
Mhm.
People were talking about it, whether it was good, bad, or anything. There's still free publicity, no matter how you look at it. As long as people aren't getting out of hand, I completely agree with you. You almost need that type of engagement back and forth, because
Mhm.
if everybody was getting along and kumbaya and this and that, people, it's not exciting.
It
It's
isn't. It isn't.
so you
It's not
almost
good.
do need that. Unfortunately, I mean, that's just the world we live in. You do need that type of um,
Friction. I think
friction
friction is the word.
and competition, and our group is better than your group, and here's why. And it really, it does stick out, and people
Mhm.
are drawn to that. People are drawn to the drama. They really are. And like I said, no advertisement is really bad advertisement, as long as you're getting the word out there and people are looking into it and be like, what's going on over here?
Mhm.
They're looking. So that's the first step.
I feel really fortunate that all this stuff is going on, while prices are down. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like before the retailers really come in and ETH gets to a certain price, we may see some funds being rotated in and stuff like that. While we're
Yep.
here right now, I'm just glad that this whole thing is being built out, really. And
Yeah.
you can hate Tangang, you can hate the Atropa stuff, whatever. I definitely don't hate either, and I'm exposed to both of them. But I just think that this kind of passion is something that's going to really help us thrive as the bull market gets raging on. You know what I mean? So
Yep. Agree.